What's up, Holloway gang? Welcome back to episode 5 of the Let Me Holla at You podcast, where we talk about real love, real life, and real relationships. We want to welcome you guys back officially to another episode. Thank you guys for all of your feedback and everything that you had to say last week. And thank you guys for tuning in up until episode 5. We hope to keep you along with us on this journey. Now, real quick, let me holla at you.
Hey y'all, thank you again so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you guys back. And also, real quick before we get started, for those that did actually send in their feedback and let us know that they took the love language quiz and how it was working out well for them or not well in their relationship, thank you guys so much for letting us know your stories. We are not going to be sharing any currently on this episode this week, as they wanted to keep it a little bit private, but they did want to let us know they did take them. We did see them, obviously some we responded to, and we hope you liked our advice or what we had to say as well. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. We loved to hear what you guys had to say and what your results were. So thank you for that. With that being said, you ready, babe?
Let's do it.
We're going to jump right in. So as per usual, we're starting with a story.
Yes.
This one is actually coming from Reddit. This one is perfect leading into today's episode, which if you have not read the title, you will get into in just a moment, or we will get into in just a moment. Yes. So with that being said, without further ado, this is coming from the relationship advice feed or subfeed from Reddit.
Okay.
And it is by Random Token, user Random Token.
Shout out to you.
Yep, shout out to you. So it is titled, "My 30 male girlfriend, 28 female, just called me cringy and weak for having a moment and I don't know how to react to it."
Okay.
So, a bit of a backstory. I, 30 male, was lucky enough to have a beautiful childhood with a very loving family. When I was a kid, I played Pokemon Diamond on my Nintendo DS a lot. And I remember very specifically going to this area of the game called Eterna Forest because I loved its music. It's a beautiful piano melody that I would listen to for hours, which actually motivated me to learn to play the piano. Cue today. I have a girlfriend, 28 female, and we've lived together for 2 years. We have a great relationship. We were in the living room. I was playing video games while she was sitting next to me browsing on Instagram. I was playing Pokemon Legends Arceus? Video gamers, don't come for me, I'm sorry. Pokemon Legends Arceus, I think, on my Switch, which is a prequel to Pokemon Diamond, the game I played when I was a kid on my DS. All of a sudden, as I progress through the game, I get to a forest area and a beautiful arrangement of the Eterna Forest song I loved as a kid comes on. I wasn't expecting it and I stopped on my tracks to listen to the song. In a mix of shock and nostalgia, I started tearing up. It reminded me of those happy times when I was a kid and brought back many memories from my happy childhood. I stopped moving in the game and kept silent while I heard the music, while a few tears rolled down, fully living the moment. My girlfriend noticed and asked me if I was okay. I dried off my tears and I started happily explaining what had happened and gave her this whole backstory. When I finished explaining, she asked, "So you're telling me you're crying over a video game?" I told her it wasn't the video game, but what it represented and the good memories it gave me. Then she said, "I can't believe you right now. Crying over a video game is cringy as hell." And she stood up and left for our bedroom. I followed her and asked her what was wrong, and she said she was disappointed that I cried over something like that and that she wasn't expecting me to be this weak. She said she didn't want to talk about it further and went to bed. I didn't really expect her to react this way. We've been together 4 years, and so far, she's been a great partner, and this is very uncharacteristic of her. She has, however, stated several times that she hates video games and that she doesn't like me playing them. But I stood my ground long ago and told her I'm not leaving my favorite hobby just because she doesn't like it, which she has slowly come to accept. I have found a balance to play in my free time that doesn't affect our relationship, and until now, it has worked just fine. I don't want to overreact and call it quits over something like this, but I am concerned about this way of thinking of hers. And quite honestly, I'm sad that she reacted this way. I was just having a human moment and opened up with her, only to be called names by the person I love. We're planning on having a kids eventually, and if we do end up having a boy, I do not plan on raising him with toxic masculinity or anything like that. So I'm not sure of how to go over this situation.
Hmm.
There is an update, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
Okay. First and foremost, I think there's already a bit of toxicity within the relationship when it comes to that. You should never feel like, especially something that is important to you that you like to do, you should never feel like you have to kind of walk on eggshells to do that thing with the person that is supposed to know you best and care about you. And I honestly feel like earlier in the post, you kind of already have alluded to your answer in all of this. I mean, you're thinking about your future with your kid and toxic masculinity and not even being able to like see your side or like see through your lens, which is something that I will say takes time in a relationship, but y'all been together for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I honestly feel like the fact that she couldn't empathize with you at least a little bit, or the fact that she didn't know you well enough to know that something like that would make you emotional. Um, I don't know. I just feel like
I feel
there's a lot of
like,
red flags already here.
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of red flags too because my thing is like if that's something that your partner loves and it obviously is like and he straight up said that like told her I'm not quitting my favorite hobby because you don't like it like
Right.
and first of all great job on you for setting boundaries and
Mm-hmm.
you straight up said it like I'm not the heck so my thing is you know he loves it so why are you having an issue with the fact and he literally explained to you that it was
Mm-hmm.
about the nostalgia of it. I can't tell you how many times and this is a weak moment I guess for me but it's not really that I've heard a song and I've cried, or I've heard a song and I was like instantly taken back to a moment or
Yeah.
nostalgia. Like we've actually talked about this in the car. Like
Yeah.
there's just certain songs, especially depending on just like what they are, kind of the feeling that they bring, that like it brings you back to something,
Yeah.
and that could be very emotional. And like he said, he like had a really good childhood, had really good memories. So why are you upset? If anything, I'd have been like, oh my god, babe, that's so adorable. Like
All right.
I don't know, like I would have
Or
found it
ask
endearing.
questions
Yeah, or
like
ask
about
questions
their
like
childhood, kind of see it through their lens a little bit more,
yeah.
like get to know them
And like,
deeper.
yeah, and I get like I would have. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I probably like not coming for you, but jokingly would have been like, "Are you crying over a video game, babe?" Like
Mm.
what? But then when you've explained it, I've been like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Let's hear it again." Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
it's endearing that my partner to me is like very happy or it's a nostalgic memory. And he's happy about something to the point that he's like tearing up. Like
Yeah. And
especially a man.
I think too it's like a common thing now that a man that wears his heart on his sleeve or like shows his emotion, especially with his girlfriend or significant other, is like is viewed as weak now, which is kind of funny to me.
Yeah, so
Especially because I,
toxic.
I believe like years ago when I was growing up and like I would have older friends talking about their relationships or even like my parents sometimes it's like you kind of that's what women have been wanting for so long is like their men to open up and be vulnerable and understand where they're coming from with certain things. So like for him to be able to do that is a big deal, which means he feels very comfortable with you. But you honestly like took that and threw it out of the window. So now there's I don't know, it's just, yeah, I just don't see this working out.
Yeah.
You know?
She or I'm sorry, he did post an update and it is rather lengthy, so I'm just gonna kind of sum it up for us. First of all, he just kind of was like, you know, thanks for so many replies because this post did get a lot of traction. And apparently some people were actually calling him like a sissy, a loser.
Wow.
Someone called him a cupcake apparently, but he handled it well. He said, "I hope you guys find love and peace eventually." So good
Mm-mm.
on you. And then he kind of clarified some things. He did say that he does not regret acting how he did, and he doesn't feel embarrassed or anything like that. And I'm not gonna let anyone make me change the way I am or how I feel.
Period. Popeye's
Um,
king.
right. And then another part that he put in retrospect is that a lot of people were questioning what her background was. And so basically he just let us know that she comes from a family of athletes. You know, we that's actually how they met is they both play tennis, I guess, and
Oh, okay.
she has a healthy relationship with her family, so it's not like this is kind of like running in the family of like a toxic behavior.
Mm.
And then after that, he said that he did talk to her. They both calmed down. He began explaining and telling her how hurt he and disappointed he was by her reaction and told her that she couldn't just talk to him or anyone for that matter like that for expressing their feelings because it's just rude and demeaning and very much unlike her.
Yeah.
He then asked what was going on and why she would call him out on those things. He said that she then proceeded to apologize and explain that it wasn't the crying that upset her. Um, she said that it bothered her that I had such a strong emotion to something she really dislikes, which is a video game, especially with it being a Pokemon game, which is another discussion we had a long time ago where she didn't like that I still played a kid's game, and I told her she would have to deal with it because I'm not changing who I am and what I like for anyone. And it made her angry, and she just didn't express it properly and made a very poor choice of words and let the anger get the best of her. She said she doesn't think I'm weak at all and said that she loves me and appreciates everything I do. So then he kind of was like, "Do you feel like I don't give you enough attention? If that's the case, like, I can figure that out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll make it work." Um, but basically, again, that I'm not gonna just get rid of my hobby that I so much enjoy.
Right.
So long story short, we get to the end, and apparently she said that she didn't stop to think how actually meaningful that moment was for him because she got really angry. So she said she was sorry that she was so dismissive and insensitive and promised not to ever do it again. She's admitted that she had some work on herself to do and apologized once more and said she'd try to be more understanding and patient, which I hope she does. He said, I'm not perfect either, but I'm willing to put in the work to work on myself for the good of the relationship, as long as that doesn't mean giving up on something that makes me or her happy, because I love her. So they're planning some things later, and long story short, they're still together. No one's like jumping the gun and breaking up.
Okay.
But overall, I am glad that they did talk about it, and good on her for kind of accepting her part in it, because
Yeah.
kind of early in that, it's like, again, it wasn't about the video game. Like, she
Right.
kind of went back in that argument about the video game, and it's like, you can dislike it. It has nothing to do with the video game. Like,
Right. Like I think
so
in her eyes, she completely ignored
she's
the
not, yeah,
emotional
it's like
part and
going
just,
right on over.
is this man crying playing this video game? Like, you know, like she
Yeah,
immediately went to that.
yeah.
But I'm glad that she did like apologize and open up, and I'm glad that they can move
Yeah.
forward.
And I hopefully they can. Like I said, in the argument when he first brought it up, it sounded like it still just kind of
Yeah.
went over her head or yeah, a little bit. Like, and I was like, okay, again, it's not about the video game. Like, even I'm sitting here reading this girl, it's not about the video game. Like,
Right.
so but it sounds like obviously that at the end, like she kind of came around and like started to understand. So hopefully for their sake it does keep going. But yeah, with that being said, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and jump into our episode and get
Let's
into our first
get
segment.
it.
We're talking about everything toxicity, okay? Everything toxic. Insert Britney Spears. All right, y'all, jumping right into our toxic episode today. We're going to actually go ahead and open up with a poll that we posted for you guys. Usually we end on them and kind of reflect, but this time we're going to open it up with the polls and give a discussion today.
Let's do that.
So, usually also we talk about a lot of lately more relationship sides of things, but let's be real, we're here to talk about life as well.
Mhm.
So, this episode, we're not just going to be focusing solely on toxic relationships, but in general, just toxic things that happen in life daily. With that being said, we did ask you guys, what type of toxicity do you deal with the most in your daily life? The answer choices were a toxic work environment, toxic friendships, toxic family dynamics, and toxic personal habits. Do you have any guesses as to which one had the most votes?
Probably work environment.
So you want to hear something so surprising that just like I literally looked at that and I was like, "What?"
What?
We had a 100% vote on one of them. And it was on toxic family dynamics.
Hmm.
Yeah. No one voted for, and we had quite a few votes actually, okay? We had quite a few votes. No one voted for anything but toxic family dynamics. Every single person said
Wow.
toxic family.
I think those are the harder ones. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, that's crazy to me because I'm like, I mean, I obviously like I feel like every family has their little tiffs or arguments or whatever, but like I feel like from someone that came from I think overall a good like family background and like obviously I married into a good family, like I just to think that my family is the reason that like I have to deal with toxicity daily.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's great. That I feel like that's hard. I think that's what I'm trying to get
when
at.
I
That
think
would be
about it, is
hard.
like, I mean, my family. I mean, I have a good family. Like we've built a really good family like foundation.
Yeah.
But I say that there still is toxicity
Yeah.
within
I mean,
that
yeah.
within that relationship and that dynamic. It's just things that now that we're all older, like we address it differently than we did when we were younger.
Right.
But it does make sense that family relationships would be. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
It makes sense, I think, if I really sit here and think about it. I just think it's more so sad in my eyes that that's what you're dealing with daily. Because
Right.
for me, for example, I tell my family about all my toxicity I had to deal with on my daily basis of everybody else or everything else that I deal with, and that's toxic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it's like I go to my family and tell them I'm all about it and whatever. So it's to me, it's like it's not necessarily surprising. I just think it's actually a little bit sad to me because I'm like, that's who I go to find, solace and everything else I have to do.
Oh well, yeah, but
So it's
I
just sad
mean,
a little
you can
bit.
still have like people who you're close to that you love, and they still have toxic things about them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Or
but on
like
the
things about them
daily.
that can be
Yeah.
toxic. But I mean, of course, if it's a part of their personality, but it's just toxic to you,
Yeah.
that's not something they're adamantly going to change immediately. Like that's just
Okay,
something that
yeah.
you endure a lot, and you just either depending on what the relationship dynamic is, there's like a power struggle in that like
Very true.
your parents and you being their child, even though you
Right.
are an adult, you still view them as like
Right.
your parent. So it's just like I can't change them, but I hate when he does this because it still makes me feel this way. You know what I mean? That can still be toxic because it's bringing out a side of you
Yeah, I get
that is
that.
negative or inherently not who you are. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I just think dealing with them on a daily
Yeah.
is what I think is killing me.
Oh
Like,
yeah. I mean, do
because
you
like I
not
said,
talk to your
everyone
family every
has
day? You
moments.
know, I mean, you talk to them every day. So I would
Yeah,
understand
but I'm
being.
like, you're having to deal with toxicity from your family daily. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little blind to that. I don't know. Or I look past things. I don't know. I just feel
Yeah.
like daily that would be. I think it's just a lot on a person. I think that's what I'm trying to get
Mm.
at.
Well, I think you're thinking of it as like the most toxic thing that it could ever be.
No,
It could be
but
something
true.
small, and you
Toxic
still deal with it
behaviors.
every day
That's
and
very
not
true.
like it. But I can
Okay,
deal
that's
with it
true.
because I've been dealing with it
Yeah.
forever. You know,
Okay.
like a short tempered, like your dad or like your parent is really short tempered. So that can be toxic to you because it brings out a very negative side. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
angry, but at the end of the day, like it's not like a huge thing. Like we can't communicate at all because he's
Right.
always no. It's just like certain moments, just like okay, dude, like chill. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
that's kind of like how I view it.
And I get that because I mean I even have my moments like that too.
Yeah.
Like I can go 0 to 100 real quick if need
Right.
be.
Or
So,
like certain conversations,
yeah.
like you're having a conversation and like it's just your parent goes off into this tangent all the time whenever you talk about this certain thing or like
Right.
they go off the deep end a little bit. It's like, all right, all right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's bring
It
it
can
back.
make you
Yeah,
not
I
want to
got you.
talk to
I
them
got
about
you.
certain things because I mean, it's a little toxic, you know?
Right. Well, besides that, the only other one I asked was, have you ever had to cut someone off because of their toxic behavior?
Mm.
Literally
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
also voted yes. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that one we kind of knew what it was going to be. Was hoping someone would say no, but yeah, everyone voted yes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is what it is. But that being said, I feel like with family, I think the biggest things I'm thinking of too are like some kind of toxic traits that I just don't think you should have to deal with daily and hopefully you don't deal with at all
Mm.
would be like guilt tripping or manipulation and kind of actually a power struggle as well. When you become adults, I feel like yes, you're still their child, but when you do become an adult, if you're fully out on your own, shoot, even married, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you have your own life, your own family, and whatever, finding that balance in life could also be a little bit tricky
Mm.
because I feel like a power struggle will very much lead to toxic behaviors from even either side, like both sides, just in terms of trying to find a balance there. But yeah, I think that and like guilt tripping and that happens a lot in families as well.
Mm.
I feel like especially once you become an adult, like it's one of those things where it's, oh, I don't see you as much and blah blah blah, and like they, you know what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
it's not the same routine, and I think again it's coming kind of from more so of like an adjustment. But besides that, I really can't think of any other like toxic family traits like right off the bat.
Yeah.
I kind of liked like I said, a power struggle I didn't really think of, but I really think that that could lead to toxic behaviors and whatnot.
Yeah.
So just finding a balance there would be good.
Yeah, for sure. Just finding a balance, especially with family. And then as you become an adult, realizing that it's okay to say, hey, I had to deal with that when I was in your home, under your roof, and I was your child. But
Right.
as an adult, I
I'm not doing
choose
that
to
now.
not subject myself to this type of toxicity.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna leave you where you're at with that. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. I mean, I think that's a boundary. Like that's literally
Mhm.
setting a boundary. Like, hey, you just did this. I explained to you what you did, how it makes me feel, and I just explained to you that I'm not going to accept it anymore.
Right.
If that relationship is going to continue in a positive manner, then that's the boundary that they're gonna have to meet.
Right.
If they don't meet that, or if this continues, and it's like, all right, you
Yeah.
gotta go. Or and that's okay to do, I think, even with family sometimes. I mean, I know
Yeah.
like everybody says that you should always be there for family and always, but I mean, family gotta learn too. And if you don't speak up about it, if you don't put your foot down about certain things, like you'll always be dealing with the same thing over and over again.
Right.
But also you can't be so afraid to address it because you doing that is stopping them from growing.
Right.
They can't grow as a person. They don't even realize. I think sometimes it just becomes behaviors that
Yeah,
manifest themselves
I
negatively
agree.
to the people that we love because we feel like we can trust them enough to open up in that way,
Yeah.
but we're not realizing how they're receiving it on their end. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree. I feel like too, I want to touch on toxic, kind of like going on a whole new page. Toxic work environments. I feel like with that one, I specifically know, and I mean, you obviously know this too. I've actually dealt with it a little bit more than I think I'd like to.
Mhm.
To the point that I've even asked, okay, am I the problem? But like, I've looked back at situations, I've asked professionals, okay, like really have like dealt or dived deep into this, and like really the work environments are I feel like especially nowadays are very, very toxic.
Mhm.
Especially kind of the corporate world, which all of our US listeners probably can understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Like corporate America is a beast of its own. And working in corporate America, it really, really, really lends to a lot of toxic and unhealthy habits.
Mhm.
Coming from unhealthy expectations to overworking and micromanagers, gossiping in the office. Like, there's so much that can happen. First of all, because you have a lot of people together.
Mhm.
Whenever you have a lot of people together, there's bound to be some sort of recipe of disaster waiting to happen.
Right.
And it's really just human nature.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it's coming from management or high ups and so like trickling down almost a ladder of just like unhealthy expectations and overworking and this and that, it's like it starts from the top and it just trickles on down to
Mhm.
everybody else. And I feel like unfortunately, your toxic work environment, and I know it's affected me, can really affect you outside of the workplace. Like,
Yes.
you go home and you can think that you've left it at the job, but it's so hard to actually fully leave it at the job because
Right.
now you're tired and exhausted from a toxic day. Whether you're physically tired or not, mentally, you're done. Like, I can tell you right
Mhm.
now, you don't realize how much your brain is having to overwork
Yeah.
just because you're having to deal with something when you should just be able to work. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, so you're mentally exhausted. Sometimes this also makes people act out and treat like their families differently or something, or maybe not even treat themselves well. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And start being toxic to themselves, not taking care of themselves. Like it really is so hard to leave at the workplace. And I think that's a big, almost like culture shift that even our generation is actually realizing is like, hey, you don't have to accept that toxic job. You can go be happy with something else. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I know a lot of people are moving abroad because they're like, I actually don't mind making a little less money, but because I have vacation time and I can go have a child and know I have a job, like different things like that, that they're getting abroad but not making as much money, they're happy because they're like, I'm okay being complacent as long as I like my job, it's a healthy environment, and I have what I need from it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they're getting a lot
Yeah.
abroad. But now, some US companies are also starting to see this and are like, okay, hey, maybe we should change something. And so there are some environments that I think are less toxic than others, than
Mhm.
just kind of like by trade. But really, like, my advice, and I'll hop off my soap bucket, is to find like something that you're happy or passionate in, but find an environment within that is good for you, you know?
Yeah, or find your peace in the craziness.
Yes.
Because a lot of
Yeah.
times you can't choose what toxicity is, especially when it comes to
Very
work.
true.
Like you cannot choose what that toxic environment, what that toxic trait, how it might present itself.
Yeah.
So being able to find your peace within that at work, whether that means, okay, I know for a fact these relationships cannot be more than just personal.
Yeah.
Everybody that I work with, I'm very polite, very positive, cordial. But as far as us going past a work relationship, uh-uh. Because
Yeah.
that will invite inevitably some type of toxicity.
Toxicity into your life. Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on where that is. And my biggest thing is the only way I feel like it is to get through that toxicity is recognizing it and then setting the boundary there. Which
Right.
again, it's very hard to do at work, especially if like your boss is the one directly, what I'm saying, providing the toxicity and they don't even
Right.
see it as that.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't think any title in the world deems you unresponsive to critique.
That.
So, print principal, president,
Doctor,
doctor, whoever,
CEO.
I appreciate you and I respect you for your years of hard work in college, and I respect you for your dedication to your discipline. but that does not mean that you reign supreme over my life and how you
Right.
treat me, how you talk to me,
And you have a free pass.
or you have a free pass to say and do whatever you like.
Yeah.
That is not the case. Now, especially if you have employees that are doing their job and doing their job to the best of their ability, I think that by all means, bosses and those with those type of titles can be checked. And that's, again, a way of putting your boundary, but that's a way you do that.
Yeah.
So,
Professionally.
of course, we're not talking about that. That's a whole different subject. So, of course, keeping that in mind, you can address this toxicity with your bosses as well. It's just
Yeah.
a time and a place for everything. And that's the most important thing to remember in that.
Yeah. And it's a professional way to do it, you know?
Yeah.
If you need some help, seek out a professional or seek out a business person, someone even like me that I'm not some CEO somewhere, but like we've gone to business school. We will make anything sound professional. Okay, there's a professional way to say anything that you want, just saying. So
Really.
one of these days we'll have a little professionalism sayings with Katya or something, and
Right.
you're gonna give me how do I say this and professionally, and I'll give it to you. Okay, like there's a way to say it, so you know professionally. But
Right.
anyway, but you did say something kind of along the lines with the like unhealthy work environment, kind of that reminded me actually of social media, and it's like not letting someone else or something else kind of like take reign over your life.
Yeah.
And I know that wasn't on our poll, but I wanted to touch on it because I feel like with social media, that's actually a very, very whole new toxic beast of its own. And I love social media, but if you don't use it, I think correctly, and I feel like it's more of like a self-awareness kind of thing,
Yeah.
it can be very toxic. First things first is cancel culture. Okay. That is so toxic. Humans make mistakes. I'm not saying that all of them are on the same level or playing field. Like there's some things that, yeah, I agree are like very much not acceptable.
Right.
Okay. But people learn, people grow, whether you think it's big or small, like people make mistakes. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're on social media, yeah, it's like, okay, maybe don't put it out for the world to see, but that's sometimes how people can grow. So why are we canceling someone if they're trying to learn from something and move on from it, but they're getting something from it? You know what I'm saying? If someone does something like just heinous and then like doesn't learn from it and they're not sure, cancel them. Yeah, I agree. Heinous, cancel. You know what I'm saying? But if they do something, even if it's heinous, but they're really trying to learn from it and grow and mature from it, it's like, how can you keep faulting them for trying to do and be better? You know what I mean? Like that, I feel like cancel culture is a little, I think it's a little far at times.
Yeah, and I will say too, let's be honest, people that live their life through social media, and I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of the times they have issues formulating their own opinion on certain topics. So when we have like mass cancel culture where thousands, millions of people are calling for the cancel of one person because they're in the public eye and they said or did something, I think that a lot of times, not saying that not everybody has thought it through and read and did their research and formulated their opinion, but I think a lot of times people pick up things that or read things that help them agree with how they feel about it.
Bias.
And they bias. And they jump on that and then they feed into it all the time.
Yeah.
That to me, I feel like is toxic because it's not like you're formulating your difference in opinion or you're saying, okay, so guys, I heard this. And so I dug a little bit deeper, and this is the opinion that I formed. I've never seen videos like that on Instagram ever. It's always like, this person is wrong because this is that, and it's like they've made up their mind, and then they go and find all the facts that it is whether true or false. Because let's be honest, y'all ain't fact checking. Whether true or false, they find things that lend towards their opinion and how they feel, and again, that's wholly other toxic because now the person who you're canceling. Okay, maybe they didn't realize what they said was negative,
Wrong.
you know what I'm saying? Or wrong in that sense. So now they're evaluating themselves and they're like, oh, I messed up.
I get it.
I said the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing. And it's like,
I already didn't mean it
everybody in the world has already jumped on that bandwagon of canceling. It's nothing that person could do to come back from that moment. And here's my PSA. Like, we all judge that. I think that's something innately humans can't turn off. But I think it's kind of like ridiculous to judge somebody so hard off to the fact that you swear them off and they're just a terrible person forever and they can't be forgiven. That to me is ridiculous because, again, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. If you ain't never said something that was taken the wrong way, if you have never been on the side of an opinion that more people disagree with than they agreed with, if you've never done something wrong and had to ask for forgiveness or anything like that, then by all means, go ahead and keep canceling people and judging people for mistakes that they made. And I think a lot of times, and I feel bad, and I feel bad for celebrities sometimes too, because I know I shouldn't, because they got money and everything, but I ain't no hater. A lot of y'all
No, I
haters
mean
out there.
they worked
I'm
for
not a
it.
hater. You grinded for it, you got your bag, and I'm supporting you in your bag. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I feel like they have it rough sometimes. It's like they can't go through those private channels to have certain conversations sometimes.
Correct.
Certain moments they can't have privately, or you can, me and Kati can probably argue in public, you know what I'm saying, amongst ourselves
Yeah.
all day, and you can see it on our face, we're mad, and that's okay. But if somebody else in the public eye goes out and do that, everybody taking pictures, everybody, I wonder what
Right.
they argue about. Did you see such and such and such? Oh, they might be finna break up because oh, is it about that dude she did? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it turns into this whole other thing. And so now that toxicity is affecting the person who made a mistake, but it's also affecting everybody else who's watching it and feeding into it.
That goes right into that self-awareness too, because for me, I think social media is also like the kind of comparison culture is a problem, but really that comes from yourself. Like you're comparing yourself to somebody else, that's your own toxic behavior to yourself, okay? That's not because someone looks good, went to the gym and posted a really cute bikini picture, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You want to look like that? Okay, how about you get comfortable with yourself first? And then if you think, okay, well, I really do like her body, how can I get there? Go put in the work on your own and be like, okay, I want to have abs like that, and I want to have a curve, or I want to have a, butt that pops because I did glute day, okay? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, you can compare in terms of, not even compare. I just don't think comparison's healthy. Like, I think if you see something and you like it, take note of it, but like, don't compare yourself to somebody else because one, you're not the same person. You, everybody, even if you grew up so similar, has all had a different upbringing, okay? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's something in that detail because you're different people, that something's going to be different. So you can't just be so caught up and wrapped up and I need to look like this or do this or that. And at the same time, kind of now going back to what you're saying, self awareness is so important. And it's like, I think one of the things that we've mentioned previously is that we're people that love to grow. And to grow, you have to go outside your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So that cancel culture and stuff, the reason I'm so like against it, or I mean, obviously, like I said, there's limitations, but
Yeah,
I'm so against like the basic cancel culture is because how are you growing from that? You know what I mean? Like you literally said, if you're seeing stuff that is a complete bias to how you already feel, what are you challenging? You're
Mm-hmm.
just, what do you need? What are you doing? You're stroking your own ego for what? Okay. So again, that's a toxic behavior. If you can't ever admit that you might be wrong or can't ever admit that someone could think differently and it's not the
Mm-hmm.
end of the world, like, and I feel like we have a lot of that right now, but not getting into it. Like, can we please go back a little bit and maybe push outside your comfort zone and try to see something from another perspective? I mean, there's times where I've literally seen both sides of a story, I had my opinion on it, and that was that. And the other side didn't change my mind. Sometimes it did. But you know what I'm saying? But like that's where growth comes from, is finding both sides, not just like feeding into your own ego and feeding into your own, I don't want to say delusions, but delusions at some point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because if you think you're always right all the time, you're delusional. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
And again, if you are experiencing some form of toxicity, rather than going and doing the cancel culture, or if somebody does something that's toxic, why not just place up that boundary and say, you know what, that triggers me or that is bothering me, so I'm going to unfollow all of these pages that keep bringing up this
Mhm.
negative. That is setting a boundary. You're not continuing to egg it on. You're not inviting other people onto your pity party. You're choosing to just shut it out
Yeah.
and just do your own thing. And also, on another point, and without going in too far, you have to be okay with other people's toxic traits. I know that's hard, but to a sense, you have to be okay with the fact that other people are different from you.
Yes.
And you have to be okay with sitting down and at least trying to meet in the middle. Because just because something is toxic to you and you explain it to the other person that it's toxic, that might not be something that they can just change outright.
And it might be something they're not willing to hear right now.
Right. So you don't have to accept it, but I think it's very, very important to try to understand and try to find some type of understanding within that toxicity. And that innately, I think, will help you grow in it and understand why that was so toxic for you
Yeah.
and how to avoid that happening again. You know what I mean?
And I think too, and I don't want to go too much into it, obviously, because we can do a whole episode on this, but kind of leading in that into like romantic relationships. Like everyone talks about like, oh, that's toxic, dump him, or that's toxic, get rid of her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the quickest thing they can do is jump to that's toxic.
Mhm.
But it's like, hold on. Okay, listen, Lindas, okay? Like take a step back because yes, something can be toxic, but again, I think there's also degrees to it. And I think there's also like, okay, how much are they toxic? Because someone can have a toxic trait, but that's something that they might not even realize is a toxic trait, kind of like you were
Right.
saying. So it's like, for example, I'm trying to think of like one that we maybe had early on. Oh, I had a little bit of a lack of trust. And it wasn't from you. Like my lack of trust is in the early on in our relationship was just from past experiences that I've had.
Hmm.
I've had to deal with kind of the cheating, whether it was physical or emotional. Like I've dealt with both sides of it previously, and I think like I was so good at being independent that I was like, I don't really need to trust somebody. So I know that sometimes we had a little bit of a lack of trust there, just on my end, and I mean, you might have had a little bit too, just kind of
Hmm.
from what you've had to deal with. But I think too, it's like, yes, it technically is a toxic trait, but that's something that we had discussed, and it was something I like actively was like working on. And I mean, you weren't afraid to have those conversations with me or tell me like,
Hmm.
hey, I need you to realize kind of what's happening here. But the thing is I was very much open to that feedback, and I really did not want that to affect our relationship. And I did change it. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
grew with, you know what I'm saying, kind of grew out of it, especially with our relationship. And it's like I feel like people need to also understand that too, is like, hey, someone can have a toxic trait or something. Because let's be real, you're not perfect. You probably do have one, whether
Yeah.
you realize it or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So people can have one, but it's like, are they willing to grow and move on from it and like really learn from it and try to be better? Or are they not ready to listen? You know what I'm saying? Are
Hmm.
they not ready to hear you right now? And if so, I think that's when a trait becomes toxic. I think I
Hmm.
kind of want to like separate the two almost, because again, that lack of trust is a trait, but it's only toxic when it starts affecting the relationship to the point
Hmm.
of a toxic behavior.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
A
makes
little
yeah.
bit? And I mean, and then like if you really give someone kind of a little bit of trust or whatever to work on it with them, like you'll be amazed at how, far you can go. And I mean, like someone could try to DM me today and be like, your husband's talking to me, and be like, LOL, yeah, right. He doesn't even go on Instagram. Okay. Like, but like my trust has been built so much with our relationship that I probably wouldn't even think twice about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whatever. But because we got past that, it's now almost even stronger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can actually speak on it, and like, it's not a problem.
Right.
you know? But like I said, we won't get too much more into romantic relationships, but I will say, y'all, don't be toxic. Like, jealousy, as much as some of y'all love your partner being jealous, that is toxic, and them being jealous is toxic. Y'all need to work on that, okay? Y'all need to work on that. So I just wanted to touch on that. Also, not allowing like your significant other to have contact with friends and family, or if you notice you're slowly being cut off, that's toxic. And that actually, I don't mean to exaggerate at all, but it actually leads to usually abusive relationships, whether
Hmm.
they're mental or physical. So I mean, like, definitely yes, like, I'm not just saying like, oh, if they have a toxic trait, like, grow from it and learn from it and move on. Keep it in your back of your mind, you know what I mean? But at the same time, if there's no growth, or if there is something that's very, very like big in the relationship, or it's affecting your relationship so much that you're causing fights all the time, maybe move on. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? All I'm just saying is, not everything can always be fixed, okay? So yeah. Watch out for those traits. But yeah, we'll keep that for another day.
Yeah.
But in general, I think that was it on the poll. I think I touched on pretty much everything. Oh, I did ask about toxic personal habits. We kind of touched on those too. But I think overall, just kind of retouching is like having an ego too big that you can't see your fault in yourself, or
Right.
not being able to be outside of your comfort zone. I feel like that's where you really start self-sabotaging, and which is another toxic trait,
Yeah. Or
self-sabotaging
not
and
just not
being
taking
toxic to
that
yourself.
look in the mirror, honestly, and just understanding yourself to the point to where you can really articulate what it is that's bothering you or what it is going. Because I mean, let's be honest. Like, I mean, a lot of times, you thinking something toxic is stemming from you more
Very
so
true.
than the other
Very true.
person. Because again, that person could just be doing their normal, natural thing, but for whatever reason, it triggers you.
Hmm.
So I think instead of just running with that and like diving into that, maybe this is time to take a step back. Don't even address it right away. Take a
Hmm.
step back, think about what happened, and maybe look back in your life and see what about this
Set me
hit
off.
that nerve. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like what about that made me feel that way? Almost even going back to the Reddit story, like why what is it about the video game
Or like keep setting her off.
that keeps
Yeah.
setting you off? Because
Hmm.
you snapped to the
Yeah.
point where you even went back and like, I hate to bring this back up, but the point where you
No,
even went
yeah.
back and had to apologize. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I totally missed the point there. there's something very triggering, more than just I don't like video games. Like
Yeah, there's gotta be
it's
something
more
there.
than that. You know what I'm saying? Like something with that video game or with the video game, it's something
Yeah.
about it. I don't know what
I
it
agree.
is.
I agree, actually.
It could be when she was younger and she wanted to play video games because everybody in the house was athletes. She had to go and be, working out and stuff. So now anybody that's like sitting down playing video games, she views them as lazy and like pisses her off
Maybe
because
she had a bad experience.
yeah, I don't know, but I think a lot of times too, like when you notice toxicity, before you just go and be like, okay, you're doing this, you're toxic. No, look at yourself and figure out what it is. Because if it is something that you're just turning into something that's toxic, then like that's a different story. I think that you should navigate that a little bit differently,
Right.
because it's not going to be something you can turn off,
Yeah, I
especially
agree.
until you deal with it and understand what it is.
Fully agree. Now, I do also want to touch on too, like we've talked a lot about toxicity, but breaking that cycle. So I've kind of said, yeah, you can move on, whatever. Yes, cutting people out of your life is very easy. Don't necessarily always recommend it though. You know what I'm saying? Like people again can grow, change, whatever. This could also be a family member, and it's like you don't want to cut them out. But you know what you can do to kind of help break those toxic cycles is again, one, look into yourself, look in first, look inside. I really, really agreed with that. Like something had to have been setting her off. Okay, so why don't you internalize? Okay, see if you can figure out where the problem's coming from, or go to therapy. Maybe they can help you figure out where the problem's actually stemming from. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
go therapy. Okay, like
Mhm.
so. Look internally first. You know what I'm saying? See what you can figure out first, and then from there, yes, if it comes to it, you might have to cut somebody off. Or what you can do is also maybe limit your space around them. Like if someone is always negative and it's just negative, 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 that's going to affect you more than you realize. I think there was even a study, and I will have to get all of my details and everything for you guys on another episode. But the basis of the study was they brought like these different groups in to do a job, like a project basically. And they put all these people in that were positive. The moment they put one negative person, not many, one negative person into certain groups, those groups automatically at the end their results were like 50 to 60% worse than all these other groups, and their outcomes were terrible, their attitudes were terrible, like everything just went down the drain. Like the project with the people that were all positive was amazing. They did well. But the projects that had the one negative person there out of, a group of people immediately tanked their results. And that was from one negative person. You know what I mean? So you don't even realize, I don't think, how much negativity can actually affect you. So my biggest thing with breaking cycles is one, look internally, see how negative you are. Are you negative? You know what I'm saying? Are
Check
you also the
yourself
problem?
before you wreck yourself.
That part, okay? Then two, your vibe attracts your tribe. Okay? So how negative are those people around you in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people realize, again, your vibe attracts your tribe, okay? The people you surround yourself with are the people you start to become.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be successful, you need to be around successful people. You want to be positive, or you want to be more religious, or you want to be more athletic, you need to find those groups and surround yourself with those kind of people. And I'm not saying like cut off everyone who doesn't fit in that group, but I mean the majority of your time you need to be spending with those kind of people.
Yep.
Because those are the people that are going to rub off on you subconsciously. Like, again, and the negativity. If you're always surrounded by negative people or one negative person, but you're talking to them every single day and it's just like a consistent negativity, that's probably where the toxicity is coming from. You know what I mean? Like,
a good saying I always try to live by is if you really want to know the type of person you are, the type of person somebody else is, look at the people around them and look at how other people treat the people around them or how other people act around the people around them. And that tells you more about the person or that said person than anything.
100%.
Because what you choose to accept, you'll dish out.
100%. I mean, like, the person that's always in the middle of the drama or happens to know all the drama and is like somewhat in it, but not always quite fully with their foot in it, but they always have something to do with it. Where do you think it's starting from? You know what I mean? Like, you have to look, okay, mathing. You have to look at the common denominator. So if you're looking at all these problems, right, and you're the only common denominator or the common factor in everything, it could be a you problem. If you're looking at all these problems that you're having you don't like, and it's this person or it's this thing that they keep doing, like this whatever action or something, that's the problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, look for the common factors of things. Like, see where and if you see what's the word? If you see like a pattern, figure out, okay, what's the pattern? And again, sometimes you might not realize it, but you could be the pattern. Like, people that play victim all the time. That is actually a toxic behavior and a toxic trait. Like, you're always the victim in every situation. It's never you and you're never the problem. Again, that comes from checking yourself and growing. But if you have all these issues and you're always the victim, always the victim, always the victim, or you're always the one getting cheated on, you're always the one getting cheated on, you're always the one doing, getting crapped on. What are you doing? And why are you allowing this to happen to you? You know what I mean? Like, again, common denominator. Like, look at for the common factors. Like, this doesn't happen to necessarily everybody all the time. So why is it happening to you? You know what I mean? Like, there could be something that you could be doing or saying or allowing into your life. Not even something that you're doing, but you could be allowing something in.
And if you do find in your search that you are the cause of the toxicity, or it is you, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that is okay. Right. Like, it's a part of human nature. Again, like a point Kati made earlier, like, you never know, like, when you're doing something toxic. Like, it just, to you, is a normal behavior, but it stems from some sort of toxicity years back in your life that you've just carried over, and it presented itself as that way now. Right. But it just took a big moment for you to realize, like, yeah, like, I am the problem. Like, maybe I can fix this. Now, where it becomes a problem is you recognizing that you are the toxicity, or you have this toxic trait about you that's infecting everybody around you, but then just not care and, like, don't change and just continue to do that. And at that point, it's like, you can't complain anymore. Like, whatever that comes to you, whatever toxicity is around you that you have to deal with, at that point you choose to accept, and that's okay. Like, there's some people that like toxic relationships. They like that volatile up in an uproar. We 0 to 1,000 real fast, and we're broken up one day, we back together. Some people like that. Some people thrive in those relationships. Nothing wrong with that. But if we're talking about healthy, natural, normal relationships, yes, like, both of you probably got a toxic trait that's affecting the other person. Right. It just ain't presented itself in a way that's a problem right now, but it may later. And you just need to be content with yourself and comfortable enough with yourself to address that and figure out where the cycle started and where to break it. Yeah. And if you're able to do that, I think you'll start to see things dwindle down a little bit, and things will get a little bit better.
Fully agree, and that's all I was gonna say. I can even wrap up everything I want to say is like, don't complain about it. So, like, if you realize that there's these toxic behaviors either happening to you, where you're doing it and you keep allowing it to happen, or you keep doing it, I don't want to hear you complaining about why your results aren't any different. Okay? It's the same thing about, like, if you're trying to learn how to run, like, a half marathon or something, okay? So, what do you do every morning to go run a half marathon? You get up, you eat breakfast, you sit on the couch. Okay, I don't think you're going to run that half marathon. So don't sit here and complain about not being able to run a half marathon if you're not out there and at least starting to walk and do the laps that you need to do to get around. Mm-hmm. Or starting to jog and run and walk and start working your way up to running the whole thing or jogging the whole thing, and then working right up to, having the endurance to do it, and then getting your speed or whatever it is that your goal is. It's like, you have to put in the work to get there, but, like, don't sit here and complain when you're not seeing different results or things aren't happening differently for you. If you're, one, allowing toxic things into your life, or two, putting the toxicity into your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I'm going to say is, if you like being toxic, or you like having it in your life and you're comfy there, good on you, bruh.
That's your
good
business.
Good on you, bruh. But don't complain about it. That's all I'm going to say is just don't complain. Be about it, okay? Actions speak louder than words. Tagline. No, but but yeah, that's all I had to say. So, you got anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up today?
No. Just go forth, be happy, prosper. Don't be afraid to check yourself, look in the mirror. Trust yourself. Don't be so quick to judge others. Right. Try to always look inward and try to understand what made somebody respond a certain way, or maybe make them do something that's dumb, if you view it that way. And then just try to give them grace in that, and hope that they can grow from it and improve and do better. Other than that, just know yourself, check yourself where you wreck yourself, and be happy.
I like that, yeah. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. We wanted to keep it nice and sweet. We didn't want to delve too much into it, but if you guys would like us to specifically delve into something about toxicity, whether it's just toxic relationships, or even more into toxic work environments or family, or breaking the habits, whatever you want, let us know. We will be happy to go ahead and especially if someone's watching and wants us to delve into something, delve into it, okay? Yeah. So please let us know. That being said, to wrap up, thank you again so much for being here. If you're new here, welcome, but thank you also for getting through this episode. We very much appreciate it. If you can, please go ahead and support us by giving us a like, a thumbs up, a follow, a subscribe,
Yes.
whatever it is that you
Run 'em
are
up, please.
listening or watching this podcast on right now. We would love any engagement possible. Also, please do follow us on our socials. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And everything is, our handle is at letmehollaatyou.podcast. We do, again, post specifically on Instagram and Facebook, but mostly Instagram, our polls for the week. We do one every Friday. So we would love to get your feedback and your engagement there as well and hear what you
Yes.
guys have to say.
Please.
So, with that being said, hopefully we hear from you soon. And I hope you enjoyed our episode. We'll catch you next time on
Let me holla at you.